the Partial Breakaway Podcast with your hosts Nick and Junior and producer Vince, bringing you elite fantasy hockey information to help you win your fantasy leagues and win at life.
Episode 82 of the Partial Breakaway Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I'm co-host Junior. To my right is co-host Nick, and to his right is producer Vince.
Hello, hello. How's everybody doing?
Great. It took us a while to get going here.
Well, there's a lot of changes happening, and with change, you got to learn new things and figure things out. And today is the first official day that we're part of a network.
Damn right.
All right, boys.
Damn right.
Should we announce it or?
Yeah, obviously.
I mean,
Be nice.
we kind of already announced it on social, but
You did that.
Let's give it
I
a-
couldn't wait to announce it.
And
Let's
we're
give
part
it
of
an
the
official,
family, not a network. Part of the family, Nick.
Yeah, I don't know how much they're going to agree with that. But
After the heroes.
the Partial Breakaway Fantasy Hockey Podcast is now a member of THPN, the Hockey Podcast Network. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board. We're
we're welcoming ourselves on board.
We're patting our own backs. No, it's exciting. It's exciting
Very
news
exciting.
because it gives us insight to other people that do podcasts that are the same family of podcasts, hockey podcasts, fantasy hockey podcasts, and we're now in the same group as them, although we're still probably the ECHL side of things compared to them in the big leagues. We're still very happy to be on board.
Yeah, look, it gives us a little bit more resources to expand what we do and develop certain things. So it's going to be fun. It'll take us a while to get used to everything we have access to, but it's only going to get better from here.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, we started doing this for fun, and we did it to get away from our wives.
No. I love my wife.
Nobody said you did it. We just said we wanted a little bit of time to talk hockey and argue about hockey and discuss and create discussions about hockey and bring other people into it. And it's just having fun with it. And it's nice to see that joining this Hockey Podcast Network allows us to expand on it a little bit.
It gives us resources we didn't have before.
Yeah, and
resources to build our brand with the help of other brands that are already associated with the network.
yeah, and thank you to Kyle and the team of THPN for bringing us on, and we hope to do justice to do you right by having
Continue
us.
to do our thing. Nothing
That's
else is
right.
going to change other than having more resources.
Yeah, and
That's
if you want to support us, keep supporting us on the social media handles. Let's follow us on Instagram, on X, on TikTok. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Engage. That's what gets our mojo going. So if you want our mojo going, engage.
Oh, boy. I think this
Are
is
we
the-
still talking
I
about
think-
hockey
I
here?
think this is the cue.
Oddman RUSH.
I don't feel like we're going to last long on this network. We'll be kicked out with all these comments about engaging. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Oddman Rush, the co-host of this segment, the host of this segment is myself, which I was not prepared for, but this is the segment where we take news and notes and trends around the NHL and turn them into 30-second takes that usually last 3 minutes. It's my favorite segment, the Oddman Rush. Ladies and gentlemen, Ken Holland has been announced as the general manager of the LA Kings. I thought he was ready for retirement and he wasn't ready to come back, but it sounds like this was the right opportunity for him. Junior?
I thought this would have been the Islanders thing to do, go get another dinosaur, but
That's a little mean.
But coming from the LA Kings, the connection with Luke Robitaille, maybe the Red Wings, maybe that had something to do with it.
Ken Holland,
I mean, he helped build the team that already had McDavid and Draisaitl make the final last year.
Okay, here
The
I could
Edmonton
build a
Oilers.
team that had McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, come on, he's also the one who signed Stuart Skinner to the ridiculous contract that he had. So, come on. At the end of the day, I don't know. I'm not a fan of recycling the older GMs. Like, where are all like, we see all kinds of new coaches, young coaches coming in. Where are all these GMs that are like a Julien Brisebois when he came in and stuff like that? So,
okay, so there's two arguments there, and I just want to make this like a 5-minute take instead of a 3-minute take. So there's two big arguments that are happening right now. One is your first GM job, you're doing a lot of learning. Okay, the second time around is usually when you have maybe more success. Maybe that's one argument. In this case, Ken Holland would be what, his third time around, fourth time around as general
I
manager.
don't know what
I don't know
where
how much
he was before
Detroit, and after Detroit, he went to Edmonton.
As far
After
as we know.
Edmonton, yeah, exactly.
Before that, I don't know if he was somewhere else. But okay, so let's say that's one argument. The second argument is fresh ideas, new way of doing things. In today's NHL, we're seeing that there's a modern take on being a general manager. Julien Brisebois is a perfect take. I don't want draft picks. Take all my draft picks and give me Tyler Janot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But no older general manager would ever do something like that, right? You need to take risks at the right time. And that's why the next part of the Oddman Rush is about the Islanders GM job. There's 3 candidates that we know of that have been mentioned. Marc Bergevin, who's Vince's best friend, Jarmo Kekalainen, and Matthew Darsh. What say you, Vince? What is the path that the Islanders should take, to your opinion? But further to your opinion, which GM here do you think would be that new age look?
Okay, for the sake for Islander fans, I hope it's not Bergevin, especially with the first overall pick this year. I definitely hope it's not Bergevin because his track record in top 5 picks is not very good when he was with the Montreal Canadiens.
Lots of reaches.
Yeah. So, Kekalainen, it was, listen, he didn't do a bad job in Columbus. I just think he wore out his time over there. He had something good going, but then I think he wanted to hurry the process with the whole signing of the players he did, and because if you look at it, the young players right now are doing pretty well for Columbus, especially this year. Kind of broke out. I think.
Would you say that maybe his detriment was the coaches that he hired?
Well,
Because he picked
the
really talented players.
The Babcock one.
Babcock
saying.
was the best
Doomsday.
one.
That's what I'm saying. Is
So-
that Babcock was a very bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was but then
then
he had no
Pascal
choice but
Vincent.
to make Pascal Vincent like last minute promotion
Yeah.
to become the head coach.
It's-
And Pascal Vincent, by the way, guys,
On fire
doing
with the
very
Rockets.
well in the AHL.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of teams that are calling about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to be interviewing until he's done with Laval, he said. But yeah, it would have been nice to see Gaudreau now, with these guys. Because that was one of Kekalainen's biggest moves, was bringing Johnny Gaudreau to Columbus.
That's
And you know what? He, unfortunately, we all know what happened. But, I mean, he's still there, and you could clearly see they're playing for him. So, I would go. I mean, I would prefer Darsh here. I would.
Yeah,
I
100%.
would prefer Darsh because
He's coming from a winning organization.
he knows what it takes.
Like, he sees Julien Brisebois do, and this is what Julien Brisebois was to Steve Yzerman, right?
That's right.
So, to me, I think you have a first overall pick this year. You have your core pieces in that Islanders team. We have your goalie with Sorokin. You have Dobson in defense. You have Barzal as your forward up front. So, I think Darsh is the way to go here. But listen, we never know, right? I just hope it's not Bergevin because I find he's way tou close to what Lou Lamoriello did.
So the only thing I'll say about Bergevin, and I know you have a personal connection to Bergevin, Bergevin made a lot of good incremental trades to make the Montreal Canadiens just a little bit better than they were before. It's his drafting that killed him. His drafting was atrocious. yes, he drafted Caulfield. Caulfield fell on his lap right at the end when Bergevin was already on his way out. Right, he had half a foot out the door already. But like some of his trades, like the Suzuki trade was a big trade that he made.
Stop. Don't talk to me about this.
No. I know you think that it wasn't him that he was going for, and it was thrown in last minute. No, but it doesn't matter.
But it was.
No, it's speculation that.
No,
the fact is that he made a trade, and what we know for sure is that Nick Suzuki was the end result. And that's what we got. And it was for Pacioretty. Right? Mm-hmm. So he got rid of an aging asset in Pacioretty. He got himself a Nick Suzuki, who obviously was a young prospect at the time, highly touted prospect. Plus Caulfield, he did create part of this team that we're seeing now today, right? Signing Gallagher for a large deal, not ideal. You know, trading a first-round pick for Dvorak, not ideal.
First and a second, no?
I think it was just a first. But I could be wrong. We could revisit that. So there was some good that he did in there too. I just find it was very wishy-washy. Like 1 year you don't know if you're rebuilding or you're going for it. The next year you're going for it. You don't know if you're rebuilding. Like it was just a lot of changing of your plan. It felt like
he was good at creating good depth within the roster. Like you know how we say Seattle always has like fourth second lines. Mm-hmm. Well, Montreal was kind of that for a really long time. They never had the elite talent at their disposal because he was never able or had the balls to go do it, to go get it, to pay. He would say they're not available, but then they would all be available and get traded elsewhere.
Anyway, so the Islanders fans at least have something to look forward to. It's going to be new leadership on the island. They have a first overall pick, which they won a freaking crazy lottery for. They were in 10th place and jumped to first. We spoke about it a little bit last week.
Yeah.
Just to touch on that again a little bit, how nice would it be to have that number one center in Michael Misa? Just saying. Mm-mm. Just saying.
Look, it all depends what they do with Dobson. They still have to sign him. This new GM, is he going to want to sign him to the contract that Dobson wants? If not, then you got to go Schaefer. You can't lose
Schaefer
Dobson.
Scares me a little bit.
Really?
He missed half the year with injury again.
Yeah,
it
that's
scares
true.
me.
That's
it
true.
Scares me. Like I really like Misa here as a number one center type that you're really missing on the island. Yes, you have Horvat. Don't get me wrong. Horvat's a very legitimate center in the NHL. I don't think he's a number one center necessarily. You have Barzal. He plays on the right wing because he's better on the wing than he is at center. If you grab a Michael Misa in there, you know that could propel your team with center depth. Horvat, Misa. You could move Barzal back and forth if you want. I find the fit of Misa would be very, very good. Don't get me wrong. Schaefer's still going to be an amazing player. If you have Dobson there already as your number one, you kind of have Misa as your number 1B. Like, get me the center. I want the center. I want points on the island. I want goal scoring on the island. Anyways, that's just...
they might just go Higgins.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think if you're number one, I would trade down. Do like the NFL.
Yeah.
Get another first
I don't
round
think
pick,
they would have
down.
the courage to do that, though.
But that scares me about the NHL, right? That's why Matthew Darche might be not a bad idea.
He reminds me a bit of Matthew Dush. He reminds me a bit of like Danny Briere. I feel like he could have the same impact as Danny Briere.
Yeah.
Gutsy, knows what it takes, knows what he wants, goes and get it.
Former Montreal Canadian. Guys, Quenneville officially introduced as head coach to the Anaheim Mighty, and yes, I use the word mighty, Ducks. Junior, we spoke about it already, of what this might entitle. We had reports out there that Quenneville was in fact going to be the guy that goes here, and he finally makes it officially official.
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying we're addressing this from a hockey standpoint only. whatever he did and was part of, or did or didn't do with the Chicago Blackhawks in the whole Kyle Beach situation, that is for others to judge. We're just going to focus on the hockey aspect of Joel Quenneville coming back. Whether that was the right move or not, that's up to everybody else to decide. In terms of what this brings to the Ducks, I would have liked Matthew Carl, who ended up being a finalist for this job and then must have opted out. You liked Quenneville all along, and you thought they could use that hard-ass coach to ignite a little bit of, basically give them a bit of accountability, you know? And I think he could do that. His hockey history shows that he's a good coach, and he gets the best out of his players. And when he had Kane and Taves, they were pretty young.
Yeah,
He's got the same age group here. I'm curious to
want
see how it
reiterate
goes.
that I was speaking solely from an Anaheim Ducks, Joel Quenneville perspective, not about who Joel Quenneville is as a person.
I just have the same problem as hiring Holland. I think you're just recycling a coach who I don't think he's a coach that can adapt to the new NHL players. And it's been out there. Bruce Boudreau is one of the guys who say, he goes, the NHL is not what it used to be. You can't push guys and start making them do laps around the ice. You're not going to survive as a coach. You need to be a much open-minded coach that listens and understands what they're going through, and that's the difference. And I don't think Joel Quenneville has that in him.
Yeah, I don't know much about Joel Quenneville's style other than what we've seen in Chicago, right? And he was more of a...
Sorry, did he coach in St. Louis too?
I don't know. But the thing is just to put a bow on it, at the end of the day, I feel like some of these coaches have some short-term success. The Laviolettes, the Tortorellas, they have short-term success with younger players. It's just maintaining that success over years that they don't seem to adapt. So we'll see what Quenneville has left in him, but we'll see if there is some short-term success. Maybe that's exactly what they're doing. Oh yeah, it's me. So Caden Lindstrom played for the first time in 366 days. Vince, I think he had a goal in his first game back.
First shift.
And then he had an assist the next game. So can you please...
I'm checking right now, but go ahead. I'm listening.
Can you please tell me, Mr. Vince, because I know you drafted him as well in Lama.
Yeah.
And you paid a hefty price to get him.
Yes, I did.
Are you feeling better? You're feeling relieved now that he's back on the ice? And actually producing immediately.
I'm feeling relieved that he didn't get hurt and that it went smoothly, and they're saying that everything went well with him. So I mean, they got smoked 6-2, but he scored a goal in his first shift, which means, Columbus took their time with him. They weren't gonna force him into something to re-aggravate this injury. So I feel good that he's back on the ice. I feel good that he's back on the ice before next year's training camp.
Yeah.
So he has a whole summer now where he can train and get into that Columbus lineup. Even though I don't think there's much space for him right now in that lineup, I think just to get his feet wet, I think it's we're in a better. Owners of Lindstrom go to sleep much better tonight than they did when they first drafted him and he was out for the season.
Yeah, I mean. Just to Junior, do you have anything to add? Because I was just going to say that he's not making the Columbus Blue Jackets next year. He's missed so much hockey right now that he should start at least one more year in the AHL before even considering the NHL. But that's just my opinion. Junior, what do you think about?
Yeah, no, I'm just happy he's back on the ice. You never like to see a young kid like that with that much, with that kind of a pedigree, drafted that high, not be able to even have a chance. So I'm glad he's back on the ice. He looks good. Hopefully his development, he develops as everybody expected.
Yeah, he's played 2 games so far. In the first game they won 4-1. Second game they got smoked 6-2. But it also helps that he's got a Gavin McCann on his team, which is the player that attracts the most attention.
Which, by the way, was the first time he went without a point in I can't even tell you, maybe a whole calendar year for something. But the good news, though, for Columbus fans is that they they reiterated a million times that they have a plan for his return. It's not just go out there and play and then, they like kind of like the Canadians had with Reinbacher. They have a strategic plan off ice, on ice, in terms of usage and all that stuff. So that's always reassuring.
All right, next topic of discussion in this Odd Man Rush is Matt Coronato's extension. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Coronato, 24 goals this year. He started playing a top six role. He was on a 50-point pace. He ended up with 47 points. What do we think about Matt Coronato and the $6.5 million over 7 years?
Yeah.
Well, we should probably look that up before asking. But what do you think about that, Vince? And
I think he had a breakout year this year. Breakout, I mean, still only 50 points, but he's young.
22 years old.
Yeah, exactly. He's young. Calgary is going to basically
6.5.
Try to build around him. 6.5 is not a bad number.
For 7 years.
For 7 years. So, I mean, if in the back end of those contracts he's getting you 65 to 75 points, it's not a bad contract to have. So, I mean, they took a risk just like Montreal took a risk with Slafkovsky and giving him the 7 years. It's a very steep price to pay right now, but might pay off in the later end of his contract.
Junior?
Yeah, like he got a big boost in playing time too. He went from 12 minutes to 17 and a half. So that tells you how much the coach trusts him. And given a bit more talent, I mean, his second line center right now is Backlund, right? You add like a more offensive center on that line, and maybe he produces even more. So I think he's progressing in the right direction. He's following the right steps to be that 65 to 70 point player, hopefully. And yeah, I think in the end it'll be a decent contract.
In today's NHL, I think this is a steal.
Great contract, yeah.
It's an absolute steal because with the salary cap going up the amount that it is over the next 3 years that they've already announced that it's going up the next 3 years, a player like this, if they had signed a short-term Bridget deal,
he
would have turned $8 million. And imagine he starts putting up 75, 80 points at $6.5 million while everybody else is making
exactly
8. I think it's a very good deal for Calgary, and I think Calgary fans should be very happy about that deal. Talking about somebody that we just saw play in Carolina, who seems to have fit that team really well, Taylor Hall. Just signed an extension.
Yeah, 1.5 million, I think, or if I'm not mistaken,
A 3 point. I think it was 3.1 Taylor Hall.
3.1. Listen, he struggled from the beginning. Once he joined Carolina, I think he had a hard time adjusting to the system. But I mean, he's having a great playoffs. And he's not getting the number 1 minutes, number 1 power play. So I think he's comfortable. He realized he's very comfortable in the system that he's playing in. He's not the center of attention on that team. So I think this is a really good contract for Carolina, but hopefully he can stay healthy.
18 points in 31 games with Carolina. Pretty good. Playing 15 minutes a game. It's
Yeah.
very solid. Like you said, he knows his role. It's comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the Taylor Hall that won the Hart Trophy that you're
That's
getting,
right.
right? He's just.
And I find Carolina's a team that they don't have star players.
No.
They just don't have
Well,
star
they have-
players. This is who they are.
I still think Aho is very star.
Okay, fine. The closest thing to a star player is Aho. But they don't have players that could take over a game on their own. Okay, there's no McDavid here. There's no Crosby here. There's no Malkin here. But Aho's a very good player. So if you fill up your secondary scoring with a guy like Taylor Hall who's actually producing on Carolina, this helps Carolina in the long run. Guys, do you want to touch a little bit, just a little bit, like quick takes on the series that are going on right now?
Let's go.
All right. Leafs Panthers, Junior. Take.
30 seconds.
Austin Matthews is due. I think his shooting percentage is like 0.1% right now. He's got to show up. He's got to score. That's what he's paid to do. And regardless of what's going on, if you're playing, then we expect you to be who you are.
So you're saying that regardless if he's injured or not, if you're playing,
you need to be able to. He's got to score. Let's be. He's got to score. And right now they need him to. And
I
You
feel
know,
like he's
maybe
one
if you got a DraftKings account, anytime goal Austin Matthews next game, that's what I would bet.
I don't know if I would, but he's doing a 60% face-offs. He's their best defensive forward so far. I just find that there's something upper body that's bothering him from the shooting motion, because his shot is not as lethal as we've seen it in the regular season of years prior, right? Like that season that he did 69 goals,
Yeah.
it was lethal.
Yeah.
Like there was zip on that thing. And you're just not seeing it right now. I think he's playing injured.
But I mean,
But he is adding to the other elements of the game. He's all over.
he's still
the ice.
contributing.
He's still
You're right.
contributing.
It's just 0.1 shooting percentage. That's unsustainable.
You're saying it's bad
right?
luck.
At
Could
some
be
point.
part of the injury too, a little bit.
Yeah, but like even with an injury, you would think maybe even 5%. Fine, you know, like
if this was the Toronto of last year, I'd be worried. I'm not worried about Toronto. I think they're still in this. They're still in this series.
this series is getting nasty. Though it's fun. It's fun to watch.
It's getting physical.
Guys, I said it from the beginning of the series, the second round, that Leafs Panthers is probably going to go 7.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Toronto take the early lead 2-0, so all of our expectations all of a sudden changed that they were going to do it in 5 or 6. But the fact is, there's a reason we said 7 at the beginning, and sometimes you just got to take a step back and realize like we know what we're talking about when it comes to some of these. You know what I mean?
It's not what have you done for me lately.
It's
Like you got to look at the bigger
you
picture.
get so excited, so emotional. Yeah, this is ending in 4. We're gonna run all over them.
Well,
and-
I had said Florida in 7, so when Toronto was up 2-0, I was like, "Geez, what a terrible take that is." You know,
yeah.
but
Well, I said Ottawa in 7. They didn't get to 7. They got to 6 though.
yeah.
You know. So, anyways, no, I didn't say Ottawa in 7. I said Toronto would beat Ottawa in 7.
7,
All the
yes.
Leafs fans are going to message me now. It's the end of the worst day of my life. But anyways, guys, Capitals Hurricanes. This is your favorite series so far.
Yeah, because
You drafted all your players from
I
there
drafted
in
all
our.
my players in that series. Listen, Hurricanes after today are up 3-1. The only way Capitals get back in the series is if Logan Thompson comes back to his the way he was playing against Montreal. I feel Carolina has found a weakness in Logan Thompson. A lot of the goals are going blocker side on him. So, and the score. I mean, Washington found a bit of their scoring touch today, but Frederick Anderson seems like he's locked in also. So I'm not sure how far this league this could end in 2 days. We don't know.
Junior, what's your take on it before I? He doesn't want to hear your take.
Very good. They need to penetrate the neutral zone. They need to find a way to penetrate Carolina's neutral zone, and that's the hardest thing to do against them.
Yeah.
And they're not the quickest, so it makes it even harder. But they're big, man. They just have to impose their body. They have to be physical with them. It's the only way they're going to create space.
Carolina is playing the 1990s New Jersey Devils type hockey. It's sticks in the lanes. Obviously, in the 90s, there was a lot of clutch and grab too, but they're doing what they can. Sticks in the lanes. Their bodies are on the line. Carolina is not a small team, right? They shoot a lot from perimeter, but then they always have somebody cutting in front of the net. And we saw it today with Jarvis scoring with Aho, I think, or Gosses shot it from the point.
Yeah.
You know, it hits a body, rebounds right to Jarvis, he scores. They're playing New Jersey Devil style hockey, and you know I'm really hoping that Carberry could actually figure out something here, because Carberry, I touted him as a regular season champion, but it looks like Rod Brendamore is out coaching him right now. That's what I think.
Experience, right? First time in the playoffs for Carberry. Brendamore's been there. Brandenburg's been underachieving in the playoffs with the teams he's had, so we'll see. It'll be an interesting series, but it might end in 5.
Guys, Jet Stars. We had a caller. We had a comment on one of our videos, which was a short, and they just didn't understand the full context of the video. But the commentator basically said that Hellebuck is not a problem. And so far, it looks like he's starting to come back a little bit in these playoffs, because the Jets, if I'm not mistaken, the Jets, what is it, 2-1?
2-1 Dallas.
Dallas?
2-1, and the game 4 is tomorrow in Dallas.
So the big storylines for me is Hellebuck and Rantanen. Those are the two biggest storylines.
Mikko Rantanen, man. And from a personal perspective, thank God he's showing out with Dallas, because I was contemplating trading this guy in the offseason not knowing what his future holds, how he's going to adapt to a new team.
If you stayed on Carolina, I wouldn't have blamed you.
Exactly, especially after a start with Carolina. So 18 points, 9 goals, 9 assists in 10 playoff games with the Dallas Stars. He's definitely found his mojo to keep that trend going here on this episode. To me, he's the focal point of this series right now. Back-to-back hat tricks.
He has 17 points in his last 6 games played. Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, 2 hat tricks or 3 hat tricks, I think.
He had back-to-back hat tricks, and so
listen, for anybody, we were the first ones who said when he got traded to Carolina, we were the first ones to say, you know what?
Terrible situation.
Not terrible situation, but is he an elite player? Because he's been playing with McKinnon all his career, right? So is McKinnon making Rantanen the player that he was, the 100-point player that he was?
Yeah,
but
McKinnon Merchant, they were calling him.
But I think right now he's proving that you can build a team around, and he's a winger. Right? Usually you build a team around the center, but he's a winger, and he
drives the line.
He does everything. And as for Hellebuck, listen, I understand he got shut out, but he also got blown out of the water last game. So, I mean, I understand Winnipeg fans are very close to Hellebuck, but at some point, like, we had the opposite problem in Montreal with Carey Price. In the season, Carey Price was very inconsistent, but as soon as we got into the playoffs, we knew he was locked in. And that's different. The problem with Montreal is getting into the playoffs. It took the hand of God or COVID to get us in the playoffs. So, I also think Winnipeg is hurting. Some of those players are hurting more than we know, and it's affecting Hellebuck's game.
Sorry, just one more thing about Hellebuck. You can't be upset by us stating a fact that he's not good in the playoffs. Guys, 3 consecutive years in a row right now where he played a minimum of 5 games. 886 save percentage, 870 save percentage, and this year he's at 848. And he's won 5 games. So he's not good in the playoffs, period. Like, hopefully he turns it around for Canada and Winnipeg's sake. But the reality is he's not the same Hellebuck in the postseason as he is in the season.
I think that at the end of the day, with shorts, you don't get the full story. You just hear a clip, you get mad, you who are these clowns? You react. And then you say that we're the best ECHL podcast out there. Guys,
At least we're the best at something, bro.
That's right. Vegas Golden Knights and Oilers. Guys, this is an entertaining series. You want to see hard hitting. You want to see crashing the net. You want to see superstar players giving it their all. This is the series so far for me that I found the most fun.
It's getting dirty. It's getting
freaking dirty.
It's getting very, very dirty.
It's dirty.
I don't know how many players are going to survive if this goes past 6 games. So it's getting, it's entertaining. Obviously, anytime McDavid and Draisaitl are in a series, it's always entertaining. I'm not a fan of some of the antics that are going on, but it's playoff hockey, man. It's getting physical, and it's getting chippy. So we'll see how the refs handle these games.
Well, we saw tonight. After the second goal, Evander Kane kind of ran over Hill there. So Hill lost it and chased him, and there was a scrap that broke out. Anyhow, to me, this series is Edmonton's depth. It's their coming out party. They're finally supporting their stars, and I think that's the difference right now.
All right, well, that does it for the Odd Man Rush.
Oddman Rush.
Ready to win some real cash during the basketball playoffs? Check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 posterizes the competition, including prize picks. Hit all your picks and score higher minimum payouts on Pick 6, plus even more cash if you outscore the competition. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. New players get 50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the promo code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the next segment that we will be speaking of today belongs to... What will you defend, Junior?
Nothing.
Absolutely
Nothing.
nothing.
I didn't make it through the first round last year, and I didn't make it through the first round this year. But the good news is you guys did, which is where we will start. Nick, you are the leader of the pack. Halfway through the second round here with 47.5 points, 9 points on the night. Listener Rooks hanging in there in second place with 41.7 points. Listener Tino's at 39.5. Listener Claudio, 37.8. That rounds up the top four. A reminder, the top four move on to the final round of the playoff pool. Listener Umbi's in fifth. Hard Day's Night sixth. Batista seventh. Co-host Vince in eighth. Roger of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast is in ninth. And Alessandro is holding the rear in 10th. Vince, I'll start with you very quickly. 8th spot out of 10. You went full pin on Carolina, Washington. I guess low scoring series. That's the nail.
Well, listen, in the season they were. I mean, they never scored less than 6 goals per game. So I thought it was going to be at least a high scoring and close series. And I had the last pick at the end of the day. So, I mean, I went with.
You went with a strategy.
Well, my strategy was basically to try to get pairs, so at least I know I would get 2 points on one goal most of the time. But it just ended up that the way the draft went, I just got out the players. At one point, I had halfway through the draft, I only had players from Washington and Carolina. So at that point, I just told myself, I'm just gonna draft till I draft and put all my money on the red. So
it was a mix of calculated risk and take what's given, right?
Look, and if this ended up being a high-scoring series or a closer, like a series that's going to go 7 games, and it might still,
it all depends.
You still have a chance. It's just that Carolina decided to play New Jersey Devils hockey, so that's where I think it really slowed down for you.
Yeah.
And Nick, you're in first, and you got some great depth scoring today with Connor Brown and Adam Henrique, which we just spoke about with the Oilers. Is that what has you in first, or a bit of everything? Like,
I'll be honest with you, I hated my team. I absolutely hated my team, and that's how you know you did a good draft. No, but
it's usually the case, really.
Yeah, like I went Nylander first. I don't mind that at all. I went Barkov second. I went Reinhardt third. Stankoven, I think, was fourth. Anyways,
Nick had the third pick, by the way, so you had Nylander with the third overall pick.
So I liked that part of my draft. It's just the rest of the draft where I went with Connor Brown, and I saw he had some depth scoring going on there, and he's still putting it up now.
Yeah, and he was one of the highest point getters in the season series as well.
Adam Henrique had 2 goals
tonight, yeah.
But before that, he was doing cardio workouts. He was just going round and round doing nothing.
That's what you're gonna get with these guys, right? Yeah. Your last couple of picks is you're gonna have.
Chychrun didn't do much except tonight. McNabb still hasn't done anything. I'm still waiting for McNabb. He had 1 assist last game, actually. He hasn't done anything else. So hopefully I get some more here. But yeah, Daniel Nurse, he was my number 1 defenseman chosen. He's my worst defenseman. It's interesting.
So what I will say, though, is between the 3rd and the 7th spot, there's a difference of 2.5 points.
Yes.
So it's really tight. And within at any point, 3rd can become 7th and 7th can become 3rd. Nick, you have a nice cushion with 47 points. You have a 6-point lead on Listener Rooks in 2nd. But from number 5, you're at 10 points.
I'm already strategizing my next round and how I'm going to do this.
Oh, boy. He's counting his eggs before they hatch.
The problem is...
Somebody's got to have confidence in me. And it's not going to be you guys. So.
The problem is if some of these series start finishing in 5, the ones that go to 7, those are the ones that you have to watch out for. So
I agree.
It'll be interesting.
Agreed.
So that does it for our roundup of the playoff, Battle Royale playoff.
It's a fun league. It's a fun survivor league right now.
Glorious. No, I won't give in till I'm victorious.
All right, moving on. We are 40 minutes into the show here. We'll do our best to get through it all. Not sure if we will, but we're going to do a post-mortem, right, Vince?
Yes. So
At least 2 teams.
yeah, at least 2 teams. Well, we'll see how long we can go. So basically, we're just talking about all the teams that got eliminated in the first round. So what we're focusing on is the over and underachievers in the league. Are we focusing season-wise or
No, just playoffs.
Just playoffs. So playoffs to see who were the over and underachievers in the playoffs.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to do more of like a fantasy hockey perspective.
Well, yeah.
Or-
Well,
Yeah,
we
playoffs,
could.
fantasy hockey. No,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We'll turn it
well,
into
you want
that.
to talk about
I-
season long?
Yeah,
Because then
but
we have
whatever.
We
doesn't
have
matter.
players
Okay.
to keep an eye on for next year. So that's
Yeah.
something. After that, we'll talk about who's in the pipeline that we should know about. So we'll basically go around the young guys. If there's any young guys that played in the playoff, what are we expecting them for next year? And then just state of the franchise, roster status, pending UFAs, RFAs.
Yeah, just to be clear, we're also going to do deep dives on all of these teams in the offseason.
Yeah.
So, I don't-
After free agency, most likely, and the
Yeah.
draft, so that we have more information.
after the draft, we start our team by team deep dives. So I don't want to do a deep dive here again. I just want to do a quicker.
Okay, so I'll guide you guys through it.
Yeah.
Good. All right, so we'll start with Minnesota Wild. They brought they came out. People thought they could have came out of the first round. Unfortunately, they didn't. But you're over and underachievers on that team. I mean, listen, let's stay away from Kaprizov. We know who Kaprizov is. But Junior, let's start with the overachiever. Anybody that really stuck out to you that you'll be watching for next year?
I wanted to from my perspective, I just didn't think that what he did last year was sustainable. I thought Philip Gustafsson had overachieved, but if you look at his numbers, I mean, he did overachieve. The thing is, he's like the Russian mountains, right? He goes 933 save percentage, 892, 931, 899, and now he went to 914. So based off last season, yes, he did overachieve. And look, he got 5 shutouts, career high, 2.56 goals against average. Very good for a starting goaltender, especially that he doesn't have the greatest decor in front of him. So my overachiever is Philip Gustafsson.
Nick,
Well,
over or under, whichever one you think.
so there was one guy that used to be top line, and he was a top line player where you would kind of get him in fantasy as a kind of a waiver wire pickup because he played with Kaprizov and because he played with who was on the other side of Kaprizov, Zuccarello.
You're pulling on my heart, Nick.
And yeah, Hartman was that guy, right? And then Eriksson Ek kind of went in there. Rossi started playing much better. But I would say that regular season-wise, Hartman was the underachiever, but he finished the playoffs with 6 points in 6 games. So if you want to look at somebody next year that you might look at as somebody that underachieved this year but might bounce back next year, I think Ryan Hartman might be that person. He did have some very questionable hits, but I think that from my understanding, Minnesota's giving him a chance here and telling him he's got to clean up his game because they can't afford to be in the penalty box.
Quick fantasy question. Gustafsson, is he a sell high candidate right now if you own him?
I think he was a sell high candidate this year.
Like right now, you own him off season. Are you offloading him and bringing in and getting the most you can for him, or do you think he can repeat what he did this year?
If you're looking at Gustafsson as the player, I think his value is perfect where it is right now.
Okay.
He's a hold. And even if he does not become the number one goalie in Minnesota, even if the Wallstad comes in and takes over the number one duties in the next year or two, it does not mean that Gustafsson's value is going to drop because he could be on another team, right? He could be on another team still performing the way he was this year. I like Gustafsson as a goalie.
Julia?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say like a really good underachiever would have been Brock Faber too. 29 points in 78 games coming off a 47-point season.
Yeah, that's season wise. Okay, so players to keep an eye on next year. So it's basically on the Wild. When you look at the Wild, you have Faber that you know is getting drafted. You have Kaprizov that you know is getting drafted. What are the players that maybe got drafted in the 6th, 7th round on that team that you think will get drafted a little higher this year? Like, just give me one name.
Well, not 7th round of this team. I think you mean like later on in fantasy drafts.
In
right?
fantasy drafts, yeah.
Okay. Because if you're asking me about who the last 7th rounder was on the Minnesota Wild, I have no freaking idea.
No.
I think that Ziv Bouyem next year is going to break into the NHL, and he's going to be a point-scoring defenseman.
Wow, you went into the next question. Who's in the pipeline we should know about?
He's not in the pipeline
not anymore.
He's there.
I'm going to go with, because I think he's going to slide in drafts because he was unhealthy all year, Joel Eriksson Ek. He only played 46 games this year, 29 points. But the season before, he had 64 points in 77 and 61 and 78 the year before that. So he was trending upwards. He seems to have found his niche. I think next year it's a good bounce back candidate. He's going to slide. That's going to be good value for someone.
Wow, no one said Marco Rossi, which I think had a wonderful season, but it's because I also own him in all my drafts, in all my leagues. So, yeah. Okay, so speaking about the pipeline, who apparently Bouyem is not in anymore, but what prospect-wise, what are we looking at for Minnesota besides Bouyem? I mean, he touched a bit on Wastad, also as a goalie. There's one guy they signed, Yurov.
Yeah.
So is he the next man up on this team right now?
Yeah, I'm curious to see. He had a bit more of a down year compared to last year. He should be coming up. I wonder if maybe they try adding him to Kaprizov's line, or maybe they don't touch that at all. But I love that player. I really have high expectations for him. Like you and Rossi, I have him in one league and try to acquire him in all my other leagues. I look forward to Yurov joining this crop. Don't forget, we'll get to it in the next question, but they're going to have a lot more cap space, so they might be spending money that might not have availabilities in the top 6 anymore. So, but I look forward to Yurov earning a spot there in the top 6 next year.
Nicholas.
Yurov's a good one. Yurov is a good one. I don't know if I have... I wanted to say Wallstad because Wallstad is really the player. I don't think he's going to be ready next year, but Fleury retired. It depends what they want to do, but Fleury retired, right? So if Fleury retired, now you're looking for maybe him coming in as a backup. And if that's the case, he's going to be basically the person that you want to see. Ziv Bouyem, Yurov... there's not really much else. There's Johansson. Yeah, there's not really much else that I see there. That's like Wallstad, Riley Height. Actually, I own him.
He's got ridiculous numbers, by the way. Ridiculous numbers with the Prince George Cougars.
Yeah.
So, as Junior was stating, when we talk about the state of this franchise, I think we can only say it's going to be at an A+ when they don't have to pay $50 million in cap space anymore to Parisi and Ryan Suter. So with all that cap at their disposal right now, even though they got to sign Kaprizov, I think, after next year, what's this team looking for in the offseason? Like, what are you guys expecting for this team?
So right now on capwages.com, they have projected $16.7 million of cap space for next year. That's a lot of moolah.
Are you going after Mitchie?
Maybe Brock Besser. I think they need a center. I think they need
they're
unless
a team
Rossi.
that has so many wingers that produce. There's Boldy, there's Zuccarello, there's obviously Kaprizov, but like these guys all produce. Adding Mitch Marner, unless he plays with Kaprizov, right? He's going to play with Kaprizov in there.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. I think that would be pretty cool. But a center would feel better.
Yeah,
it would feel better.
Their centers right now are Ekman, Eriksson Ek, Rossi,
Hartman, and Gaudreau.
So it's a bit.
None of these guys are top line centers.
So it's very weak
right now.
Defensively, I think
But at some
with,
point,
with Faber, Buyem, Yerachek, I think they're solid in
They're
defense.
solid.
Spurgeon.
Yeah.
So,
Goalies are solid.
yeah, so I think center
Look,
position. What they should
I
be
think they could use a
concentrating
center and a winger. I mean, they have Marcus Foligno on the second line at wing. They have Gustav Nyquist or Trennan. If they can add a Brock Besser there on the wing or a Mitch Marner, obviously, but I think Brock Besser, I don't know why, I just have a feeling this is where he ends up. And Marco Rossi, like you said, if he took a step up this year, maybe continues his development and solidifies himself as the number 2 center on this team.
on. We will see. It will
The only
be-
thing is with Besser, does he not remind you of a guy like Boldy already? Like how many?
I mean, they don't have to be on the same line.
Okay, you're gonna have a 40 goal scorer on your line 3.
But
Line 2.
is Besser center?
No, Besser's a winger.
right winger.
All right, so that's for the Minnesota Wild, who we could all agree is going to be in a better state next year, just because of their cap flexibility that they didn't have for the past 6 years, I think. So, the next team up, who just got a new GM in Ken Holland, the LA Kings. They kind of had Edmonton on the ropes, and then kind of, not a Tom Wilson hit, but something that made them just fall off, and Edmonton just got the momentum and never let go. So the LA Kings, over and underachievers. Who are we looking at? Nick, give me an overachiever.
I don't know if this is fair, but I would say Kemper.
Okay.
And
Kemper, the goalie.
yeah, well, he's a finalist.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised you remember him.
No, because I thought you were mispronouncing Kempe.
No, I'm saying Kemper was a little bit of an overachiever. The guy is a good goalie. It's not that he's not, but he's currently 35 years old. He had this year 50 games played. He had goal save above expected of 127. It just feels that he had a 66% quality start percentage. And this is where I'm coming to, is that previously, the year before that in Washington, he had a 42% quality start percentage. The year before that in Washington, again, 47% quality start percentage. The year before that in Colorado, 54%. So in the past 4 years, he performed the best this year. And you could turn around and say, well, this is the best defensive team that he's played on. Yes, but Colorado in 2021, 2022 was still a very good team. So I don't want to take too much away from that, right? I don't want to think it's only because he's playing on LA. I think he had a very good year this year. I don't know if he could maintain that another 50 games next year at 35 years old.
Do they have anybody in the pipeline in that goalie position?
Carter George?
Yeah, Carter George.
Yeah, but
It's the biggest one.
so basically now, Junior, underachiever, who am I looking at that you were a bit disappointed with
I think
lacklusterness in the playoffs?
I think in the playoffs, just the playoffs.
Well, even season. If you
Well,
have
I
someone
mean,
in season.
he played 6 games in the playoffs this year, and he had 2 goals, which is not bad. But if I look at his overall season, I think, and it's going to be a bit harsh because he's only 22, but I think Brandt Clark was a big time underachiever. I think he had every opportunity in the world to do well this year, and just couldn't grab it, couldn't take advantage of it. 33 points in 78 games. You know what? It's not too bad, but considering they actually scored more goals this year, I thought he would have been he would have produced a lot more. And in the playoffs, only 2 points in 6 games.
Interesting.
Considering they scored a lot of goals, I would go with
Especially
Brandt Clark.
Doughty was out for so long during the season. You thought he would have been able to take that extra step. Okay, players to keep an eye on for next year on this LA team. Who is aging? So who are we looking at that you think can take a next step up?
So one guy that I was looking at, well, we already kind of spoke a little bit about Brandt Clark, so I won't mention him again. But Alex Turcotte, maybe? If he could take a next step forward, it would be huge. I don't know if Green Tree is going to make the roster out of camp. I'm a little bit doubtful of that, just because he's very young. But Alex Turcotte is hitting his 24th year. So he's 24 years old right now. He's going to be entering the next season as a 24-year-old. He had a little bit more this year. He played 68 games. First time he ever played more than 20. So he's starting to establish himself. And he's played a total of 100 games. We'll see if he could establish himself a little bit more. He was only on a 30-point pace this year. I'm expecting it to be higher next year, especially with a higher role.
Junior?
I know I was contemplating saying maybe keep an eye on Kopitar. It might finally be his downfall, but I feel like we all did with Bergeron with Boston. We keep thinking it's going to be his downfall, and then he keeps producing over 60 points a season. So,
and I don't want to give an obvious one like Byfield. I think Byfield is really the guy.
Yeah, my next comment was going to be, what do you guys think about like Byfield? Because this year he's really stepped it up. Like took this team under his wing. But Joe, who do you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's more or less the same. They don't have a lot of that core. If they re-sign Kuzmenko, I'd be curious to see what Kuzmenko does next year, because he had a really good stint there. Although it was small sample size, he did pretty good with LA. So that'd be someone I'd keep an eye on going into next season. He's not necessarily a young guy, but considering how he ended the season, if he stays there and signs a contract, I would keep an eye on him.
Laferriere was a fun story as well.
Yeah.
He was like a waiver wire pickup.
He started out like a
year.
cannon, and then he slowed down. He drifted in the second half.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically I'll put these two questions together. Who's in the pipeline? That we should go? And the state of this franchise. Does this franchise kind of have to start retooling a bit to get back to the glory days? Rebuild, or just stay on course and hope their young guys start taking over, like we're talking about Byfield?
I think you're staying on course because you already have the young pipeline coming in. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that, well, we spoke about Brand Clark already. I think he's going to have a very good career in the NHL, even though he started a little bit rocky this year. Guys like where was I going? Byfield, very, very young player. He's starting to establish himself as potentially a number one center, if he's not already the number one center on that team. You know, Kopitar is getting a little bit older, but don't forget, they still have Samuel Helenius, who they drafted not too long ago. There's your number two center of the future. You know, like they have pieces coming in that, like Jordan Spence, still a very young player. They have pieces coming in that's just perfect for this team. Carter George, Portillo in goal. You know, I think that they're in a very, very good state moving forward.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. It's pretty accurate. They're in like that transition phase right now, where the young people, the whatever was considered pipeline is now young NHLers.
Yeah.
So they just have to see it out, and like they're vets, like are younger vets now, like Kevin Fiala, Adrian Kempe, 28 years old. They're the guys that now are going to lead this team when Kopitar decides he wants to call it quits.
I forgot Liam Greentree as well.
Liam Greentree, yeah. I mean, I think he's not ready just yet.
No, but it's coming.
It's coming.
Prospects,
yeah,
it's all coming.
It's coming.
They might not have a choice to bring up Liam Greentree. Their salary breakdown does not look good for next year. They're already over the cap. Obviously, this is not with the extra, but they still have to sign. They have to resign Laferriere. Kuzmenko, if they want to take a run at him, he's a UFA. So I mean, I love Drew Doughty, but $11 million, that's a huge hit for a player like Drew Doughty, and they have no backup goalie. David Ritchie is a UFA, so maybe this is the time where they had to bring up a young goalie as a backup. But
Portillo, I think Portillo is at the age where that he might be that out of camp. He's at 25 years old when camp starts.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for goalies, it's a bit later, but I think that's where they're going to be going. Just because, I mean, I'm looking at their young players that are signed. There's not any big names out there that just pop out at you. So either they're doing something free agency where they go pick up someone just to But I agree with you. I don't think they're going to be there in the mode of retooling or rebuilding with this team. I think they're going to stay the course, play the system they do, and then hope the young players just step up. So we'll see. Do we have time for another one, Junior?
We are exactly 1 hour in, so it's up to you guys. We did that pretty fast. We did 10 minutes a team.
Do you want to hit one more team?
Let's do one more.
But this is a team you guys are like really excited about because you both have players from this team, so might take more than 10 minutes, but we'll see. The next ones are the team that brought the Winnipeg Jets almost to their knees and into 7 games. St. Louis Blues. Man, what a coaching change does to a team, huh? They almost repeated their Stanley Cup year. I mean, St. Louis Blues, we'll just start off the bat. Over and underachievers.
I'll go first. I was expecting a lot more from Buchnevich. I thought it would have been a bounce back year from the slowish year he had the year before. 57 points in 76 games. I see him honestly like a 70-point player. And it's 2 years in a row now. He doesn't quite get there. So for me, he was a bit of an underachiever, but he came to play in the playoffs. Not that that really mattered for me, but he came to play. He helped Nick get to the second round of our Battle Royal playoff pool. And so for me, he was a bit of an underachiever in terms of points, because he does a lot of other things well, but in terms of points, he was a bit.
I think that Jim Montgomery really started realizing what Buchnevich is good at, because late in the season he started putting up points right before the playoffs, and then once he hit the playoffs, he continued that streak. So I'm looking forward to next season as being a big bounce back candidate. The person that I actually really liked Jordan Kyrie's season. I really liked it.
It was like a bit of up and down, because I had him up and down, but when he took off at that second half, unbelievable.
He finished really, really strong there. Hard for me to say like who underachieved. Like I was gonna talk a little bit about Braden Chen, but I don't even know if it's fair. Like the guy is 33 years old, turning 34. Next season he's starting 34 years old. He had 51 points. I was expecting a little bit more from him, just because he's had 65 points before. He's had 70 points before. I was expecting a little bit more. He played all 82 games for the third year in a row. But only 51 points was a little bit disappointing for me. Only 18 goals. He didn't crack that 20-goal mark. Second line center, but
just missing just
a little more, So that's who I'm going to say as my underachiever. Do I think he bounces back at this age? It's very difficult for me to predict a bounce back, and maybe he's just not.
No, maybe
a center anymore.
Or he can solidify himself as a third center on this team.
Yeah, role player. That's like I think essentially.
Because listen, this team is like if you're looking at Machok names,
overachiever though, I think it's pretty consensus, right? There's one pick
as an overachiever.
Dylan Holloway. Going into the season, nobody expected him to be a 63-point player.
Yeah, but overachiever means that he's not going to repeat it next year.
Do we know? It's the first, like he went from 9 to 63, so that's a good question going into next season. Do you guys think he could repeat that?
He could. I don't know. You own him. What do you think of? Don't you own him?
No,
I owned him, but
I traded him. Listen, the biggest thing with this, the biggest hurdle for Holloway is that the young players that are coming up had like a pretty big impact during the playoffs. Snuguru, Jake Neighbors, these are all wingers, right? Your top wingers are Kyrou and Buchnevich. So your second line centers are Neighbors, Snuguru, who had a big impact in the playoffs. So to my next question is players to keep your eye on for next year, and who's in this pipeline that, like, I don't see any. They have a great pipeline, but who's in this pipeline that can make the jump to this NHL team next year?
Okay, so that's two different questions, right?
Yes, that's why I put them together.
Yeah, if we're going on, like, Broberg really looked good this year. He was a person that they went out and they picked up. He's a young player that I think next year he's going to feel even more comfortable. So to answer the question of who do I look forward to next year, Cam Fowler was a freaking great.
That's the
pickup.
name I was waiting because he's still under contract next year, so they have him for another year.
That was a great trade. It was an absolutely great trade, and they went and they grabbed somebody from a horrible Anaheim team, and they just I would look out for, there's so many players I'm so interested in this team.
Yeah.
Snuggerud, you already mentioned him. I own him in Lama. I signed him to a contract right away after seeing his playoffs because he looked like somebody that's ready to contribute in a top 6 role right now. Snuggerud is somebody that I'm very excited about. Cam Fowler I mentioned, Broberg I mentioned. And then you go and you get a Joel Hofer who in net, I want to see what this kid could do. Because, yes, you have Binnington there. But at the same time, Hofer is not a nobody. He is touted as going to be the next player, the next goalie on that team. So there's so many good players that I want to talk about on this team, and I just don't have the time to do it.
One guy I'll mention, I don't think he played a game yet. And it goes to what you were saying about Braden Shen. He's just not enough to be a second-line center, but he's like a really good third-line center. That paves the way for Dalibor Dvorsky.
Yeah.
He should see some playing time. He should be maybe that third-line center that eventually, midway through the season, becomes that second-line center and does that transition where Shen goes down and he goes up. That's what I'm really looking forward to. I think if he could stay healthy, he has a good training camp, he has a spot on this team.
Don't forget Otto Stenberg.
Oh yeah, I liked him a lot, man. Especially in the juniors, in the World Juniors, he was great.
So they have Adam Juracek as well in the pipeline. Mm-hmm. He's a little bit farther off, right? But Stenberg, guys, don't sleep on Stenberg. This guy is gonna be a goal scorer. He's gonna be somebody that puts up points in the NHL.
So if you look at St. Louis, their window is opening next year because they've got Kyrou, Thomas, and Vuknevich all signed until 2030 at either 8.1 or lower, or 8, which is those are fantastic. Like Robert Thomas, that's a fantastic contract for Robert Thomas. Kyrou, if he can put in those 40 goals, it's a fantastic contract for him. Reminds me a bit of what Montreal did with Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slavkovsky.
Their core is signed long term.
Exactly. And then you go down the list and you go to Snuggerud. Oh, well, Snuggerud's got 2 more years at under $1 million. Zach Bolduc, who came out of nowhere, has another year at under $1 million. Jake Neighbors, next year starts at 3.7. Showed like he could play with the big boys. So I think their window of opportunity is opening now.
Yeah, they made the playoffs, and I think their window creaked open right now.
Yeah, exactly. And
they have the coach to do it too.
And like I said, the Cam Fowler pickup, that was just a
chef's
huge
kiss.
hit.
It was a chef's
that was
kiss.
A huge
that
hit.
was such a good
and
pickup.
Listen, they have Binnington 2 more years at $6 million. I'm not going to complain about Binnington because he did what he had to do. But I do agree with you, Nick, that at one point Hoifer needs to get more games in to take over that job. So I like this team. I like this team going in the future. They're a team to watch in the West for the next few years and see what they can come up with.
You want to finish it off with one more, just so we're completionists and complete the Western Conference?
So I'll complete the West with the team I had.
We'll do the East next week.
Okay, so we'll complete the West with the team that I had winning the Cup this year, which obviously didn't happen, which is the Colorado Avalanche. Now, Colorado obviously had a huge shakeup this year with the Rantanen trade that came out of nowhere, and the Natchez who came in. So, quick over-unders in the Colorado Avalanche. No McKinnon, no McCars.
Okay, overachiever right off the bat, Nick Ash.
That you don't think will be able to...
I don't think he'll be able to repeat what he did before. Not because I don't think he's a good player, but because Nick Ash's point total this year was just unsustainable. He ended up with 84 points in 79 games. I don't think he's over a point per game player. I just don't think that's who he is. But can he repeat 70, 75 points? Yes, I think he's right there. 85, he was on pace for 87 this year. That's the part that I'm a little bit questioning. He had a shooting percentage of 13% compared to his career average of 11. So a little bit higher shooting percentage. You know, he took less shots on top of it this year and still scored 27 goals. But maybe playing with a McKinnon is gonna change that.
Well, it's
I
gonna
don't know.
help. I mean, me playing with McKinnon, I'm pretty sure I could score a goal in the NHL.
I'm pretty sure you can't even skate.
I can't.
Junior.
Yeah, I think my overachiever is Jonathan Drouin. He only played half a season because of injuries, but he was on pace for 71 points. I don't think he's a 71-point player. So I think that pace goes down. He also shot a career high 19.6 shooting percentage. That's really high, especially for a non-shooter. So the volume of shots he takes is low. It's not even 2 shots per game. He's my candidate for regression next year. It might not be a big regression. I still think he could be a 50 to 60-point player, but pacing 71, I don't think it's going to happen, McKinnon or not.
So, like, for a team like Colorado, it's very hard to say players to keep an eye on because they've been at the top for so long that they usually don't have their first round draft pick usually because they traded to pick up players to help them in the playoffs, or they draft very late. So next year, players to keep an eye on. I'll throw a name out there and you guys let me know. Can Landeskog somewhat come back to what he was? Oh, that's a long silence.
Look, I have him in one of my leagues. We're not re-signing him because of his contract, because it is a cap league. It's just hard to take a chance, especially in cap league, on a $7 million player that you don't know from one day to the next. I'm glad he came back and he looked good in the playoffs. He was able to play back-to-back games and go through the full motion of things in the NHL. He's also getting older. He hasn't played in 2 years. Like, you know, it catches up to you at one point.
There's risk there.
In an 82-game season, it's not the same as an adrenaline run of 8 games or 6 games that they played in the playoffs, right? So, in redraft leagues, do I take a chance on him maybe towards the end of the draft if he's still available? Probably.
Nick?
It's if I was you, I would have him in my lineup, Landeskog. And the reason is because you're a rebuilding team. You could take the risk.
Oh, yeah.
You
100%.
could grab him. And then if he performs, you could sell him.
Yeah.
I like that for you in a cap league where there's contracts like Lama. I like that for you much better than I would like it for somebody like Junior who finished in second place this year. Because Junior doesn't have the cap. He doesn't have the time to wait. He doesn't have the time to take risks. He needs to compete against Dan for the number 1 spot. You know, like I was thinking about it. You know, I was the third place team, right? So I'm thinking about it. I'm like, can I bring Landeskog in? Maybe replace one of these other guys that are making too much money. But there's so much risk involved. There's so much uncertainty involved. It's very difficult for me. That's why I think if you're somebody in the middle of the pack that could take risks, or later on and rebuilding, retooling, that's where you go ahead and pick them up and hope you could sell them high during the season.
So, like, pipeline, they had one player in the pipeline which they traded out for Brock Nelson. So, 2-part question. Are you guys convinced with their goalie tandems in Blackwood and Wedgwood? And this team got exposed in the first round of the playoffs. Where they go? Like, if you're the GM, what's the first thing you try to improve on this team?
So there's a few things. I don't think they got exposed. I think they might have been eliminated to the Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, because it was a tough matchup.
That was a Stanley Cup final in itself. I think
how bitter was it that Rantanen scored that hat trick on the final game against them?
Right.
Just to eliminate it. Their former player.
And now the talk is going to be how Natchez is not going to be Rantanen, right? And that's unfair to Natchez because he's good in his own right.
Yes.
The problem with Colorado right now is they have no picks in the first 3 rounds for 2 consecutive years. So this year and the next. They're tied against the cap. They're losing Brock Nelson. Do they try to bring him back? Jonathan Drouin is also a UFA. We'll see what happens with him. But this is the team. Yeah. And their goalie tandem I could live with. I could live with Blackwood and Wedgwood. And Ilya Nabokov, who is their he was their pick,
highly touted
goalie from Russia
from last year.
And from what I read and understood is that he's coming to North America.
That's right.
As of next season. So that's that's the guy in the pipeline I'm looking at, because that's the obvious opening in the near future that's available.
He's 22 years old. He was second round, 38th pick overall in 2024. He has the upside to be a number one goalie in this league. So if the Blackwood, Wedgwood, all the woods experience.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck?
Chuck with a wood, chuck, 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 chuck.
No, we're not talking about the Kachucks here. Ilya Nabokov is probably going to be that guy that's coming up that's going to push Blackwood out in the end.
Yeah. Maybe honorable mention, because
he's still a couple of years away, I think.
Honorable mention to Ivan, who did pretty well when he came up this year in the few games that he played. But
yeah, pretty much like Junior said, state of the franchise. They're competitors. They're going to be competitors next year as well. It's going to be fun to watch if Colorado could take the next step, though.
You heard it here first. Trade deadline, Crosby to Colorado next year, my friends. Crosby to go play with McKinnon.
I don't believe in that.
Yeah, McKinnon went to the Worlds just because Crosby said, "Come to the Worlds, I'll come to Colorado."
Yeah, but there's also Spitting Chicklets podcast had a guest, I forget who the guest was, who said if Sidney Crosby leaves Pittsburgh for any reason, he's only going to the Habs.
Yeah, he's already on the Habs. Everybody have his jersey. Don't worry about it.
guys, I think the longer this goes, the more we know he's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. He's retiring now. Penguin.
As another episode in the books, the first one under the Hockey Podcast Network. I think it was a successful one.
Well, you always say that we're going to get better next week.
We will.
I doubt it.
I think we were great.
We regress.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And don't forget to follow us on social media. And like and subscribe on YouTube.
Have a good night, peeps.
Have a good week.